Hello everyone. So today we are going to start the session 5th of the modern history, and today we'll see the story of Mysore and the story of the tiger, that is the Tipu Sultan. Our approach, as always, have been we will be very to the point, very specific, and we'll try to discuss a few things through questions that we always do. So what we have done in the last session? The last session we have talked about the Bengal story, right? The Bengal story we talked about. So in Bengal we talked about the Battle of Palasi and then Battle of Buxar. And when they got the one of the richest province in India, that is Bengal, they now prepared. Now they have got this area. The Britishers have got this area. They have got Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha. This area. There is no authority which can challenge them in the south, in the north. Now they will turn back to the south. Now, if you remember, that was the same time in 19 that we have discussed in the 1760s. They have also won Battle of Wandiwash, right? That is the now the French power is over. Okay? Then your 1759 Battle of Bidara, Dutch is over. No challenge of Dutch, no challenge of French. So now you will see one more war, that is 1761. That is the Battle of Panipat, third Battle of Panipat. We'll read in the lesson 6. Session 6 we will read. In the Battle of Panipat, the Marathas will be off as well. And that will give the British the chance to become the real superpower in India, or real political authority in India. Let us start our discussion with the question. Previous year question. So, during the time of which Mughal emperor did the East India Company establish its first factory? So, when was the first factory was established? बहुत आसान सा question है. It's very easy question. We have done it. So, what's the answer? The answer is Jahangir. Remember? So, William Hawkins came, didn't get the permission, but their first factory in the south was in Masulipatam. Then they got the permission in 1613 when they beat the Portuguese at the Battle of Swali. When they beat the Portuguese, then Jahangir was very happy, and they have given them the okay. Let's go ahead and set up your base in Surat. We have read that particular story. So let us start about the Mysore kingdom. So the Mysore kingdom, just like any kingdom, the collapse of the kingdom of one kingdom or the one dynasty in a particular area and the rise of the another one follows the same route. So for example, earlier it was very powerful, and some other dynasty or some other leader is the vassal of that particular state, particular king. Let's say this is a king and this is a vassal. We accept your sovereignty, that you will be above us, but we will be below you. But when the king starts becoming weak, then what happens? The vassals become very strong. We have seen the same story with the decline of the Mughal Empire also. Dekhiye na? When the Mughal Empire declined, that we have seen the last session also, the Bengal session. So when the Mughal Empire, after Aurangzeb's death, Mughal Empire went down. So the regional kingdoms went up. The same story is followed in the Mysore area also. In the Mysore area, very important dynasty that was there, that was the Vijayanagar dynasty. So earlier the Mysore kingdom led by the Wadiyar family dynasty. They were the vassals of the Vijayanagar Empire. When Vijayanagar Empire collapsed, which battle? Battle of Talikota. You must have prepared in your medieval history. Then the Wadiyar dynasty rose as an independent kingdom. Then within the Wadiyar dynasty, when the kings become weak, then it gives the chance to Hyder Ali for to rise. And this is how the pattern follows. Right? Let us see very quickly. All the things that I present all the facts are presented in the form of the notes. There is nothing here. This is just for the sake of understanding. There is nothing here which is not written in the notes. Okay? All the relevant information will be written in the notes only. So in 1399, founded by the Yaduyar Wadiyar, 1399, they were the vassals of the Vijayanagar Empire till the time Vijayanagar Empire collapsed after the Battle of Talikota. Now they gained independence. and their independence after the Vijayanagara Empire collapsed, they got independence. They'll become their own independent kingdom. Then came the time of the Hyder Ali, from Hyder Ali to Tipu Sultan, and then after the Tipu Sultan has lost against the Britishers have fought the 4 wars against the Tipu Sultan. They are known as the 4 Anglo Mysore War. So, Vodaya dynasty, vassal of Vijayanagara Empire, Vijayanagara Empire collapsed, Vodaya dynasty became independent. Vodaya dynasty, when the kings become weak, then your new person comes up, that is Hyder Ali, then Hyder Ali's son. And with the rise of the Hyder Ali, conflict starts and Tipu Sultan dies. Hyder Ali also dies in between. And then the British again reinstates the Vodaya dynasty. They say ki again, go Vodaya dynasty ko, they give it again. But now the Vodaya dynasty will be under the British pressure or the British overall British authority. So now this is the map of the Mysore in 1704. If you recall, there is no independent kingdom of the Hyderabad because Hyderabad is not here yet. Hyderabad was formed in 1724. So you can see this is the kingdom of Mysore. Chalo. And you can see this is Travancore, Carnatic. This area is Carnatic. Okay, we have seen the few areas. Now, let us briefly talk about the 4 Anglo-Mysore wars. The first Anglo-Mysore war, what you have to remember is the wars, the time of the war, when the war happened, and then you have to remember the treaty with which the war ended. For example, Treaty of Madras, Treaty of Mangalore, Treaty of Srirangpatnam. So first war ended with the Treaty of Madras, second war ended with the Treaty of Mangalore, and the third war ended with the Treaty of Srirangpatnam. And the fourth war ended, and with that, the story of the Tipu Sultan. Obviously, with the fourth war, there won't be any treaty. That will be end only. So end of the Tipu story happened after the 4 Anglo-Mysore wars. आपको याद क्या क्या रखना है? The dates of the Mysore wars, the treaties of the Mysore wars, and the outcomes of these Mysore wars that we will look at the end of the session. Let's talk about these 3 places. So Mangalore somewhere over here, Srirangpatnam in Karnataka, and Madras in your Tamil Nadu. Locations are very, very important because they can ask you if UPSC innovates its question, let's say. So innovate kaise karega? How it will innovate? It will try to modern history and geography, it will combine, or the locations in the geography they can combine. So they can combine the 3 treaties have happened after the 3 Mysore war, first Mysore war, second Mysore war, and third Mysore war. Arrange it, let's say east to west. ऐसा पूछ सकता है. So Mangalore, then Srirangpatnam, then Madras, like that. So this is the kind of innovation the UPSC can go forward in the future. You can expect such questions going forward. Next is Hyder Ali. Let's talk about the story of Hyder Ali. So before Hyder Ali, Vodaya dynasty was there. Hyder Ali was born in 1721. He was good in military. He rose up the rank of the military. है ना? कि भाई military में he showed his true color. He showed his class. Finally, he got the patronage of the kings, and he rose up in the military ranks. He became the military head by 1760. When he became the military head and he saw the king that is there, he is very weak. The king is very weak. And the people who are being appointed as such as Nanji Raj and Dev Raj, you don't have to remember their name, to be honest. Not important at all. So these people were there, and the Hyder Ali finally, when he decided that I'll take up the power in 1761, he killed Nanji Raj and killed and imprisoned the king. That's it. That's what you do when you put up a military coup. That was a military coup of that time. So when he died, in 1761, Hyder Ali got the throne. Then Hyder Ali tried to expand because he was from military. He had that military acumen, and he just expanded like anything. And when you will expand, you are bound to create enemies. You will create enemies. So some of the enemies were, initially the enemies were Polygards, right? There were enemies with the people around the kingdom. So around the Mysore kingdom, Marathas were there. We'll see. Then conflict with the other kingdom which has propped up in 1724, that is Hyderabad's Nizam, that place. Then you have the Carnatic Arcot. So all the kingdoms which were nearby, obviously, when you have an expansionist mindset, all these kingdoms will be facing a lot of challenges, isn't it? They will feel threatened by your rise. Just like, for example, China. China ho raha hai na? China is encroaching, so everyone is threatened by the Chinese encroachment. Now let us discuss Polygard. I think Polygard you must have prepared in your Vijayanagar Empire. So this is a proper feudal structure. This structure is a proper feudal structure. You must have, if you have seen the Game of Thrones, तो आपने you must have witnessed it. So Game of Thrones में भी क्या था? There was one king, then you have the nobles. For example, Ned Stark was a noble. Then there were knights, and then there were peasants. And this is how the structure is arranged. It was a land-based system. Similarly, in India, similar systems were there. So Polygar, you can see combination of these two factors, nobles and the knights. They were the polygars. So they are provided with some land and they are provided with the right to put their own military. And they are supposed to pay some of the money to the king and protect the king. And protect the king. These are the two tasks of the polygars. And yes, accept the sovereignty of the king. He accept that you are my king. That's it. And the king will give the authority to do the lands. Okay, this land belongs to the king, but king will give the authority to these polygars. And the same concept goes for the Jagirdar, same concept goes for the Mansabdar. Some subtle differences are there, that's fine. But overall concept is like that only. Let us discuss. So polygar are basically the feudal titles for a class of the territorial, administrative, and military governors appointed by the Nayaka rulers of the South India. So Nayaka rulers, that means the before in your that is the Vijayanagar dynasty they are talking about, right? So during the 16th and the 18th century, so after your Vijayanagar empire will collapse, what will happen? These polygars will become very important, very strong, because when the central king authority is dying down, then obviously these people, those who are holding the land and the small military, then they will become very powerful. And when the new king is there, for example, someone has crowned himself, such as Hyder Ali, they will become a very important challenge for the polygars. Polygar will become a very important challenge for the Hyder Ali. So polygars rule what to administer their palyams. So yes, a word you need to remember. Palyams. Palyam is what? The territories. Okay, UPSC में in the modern and ancient history they are asking such terms. So this is a term, let's say. Term 1. So term palyams for their fortified center. Just like in the last session we have seen the Takavi. Similarly, these terms you need to see. Their chief function was to collect the tax, maintain law and order, run the local judiciary, maintain a battalion of troops, as we have discussed, and tax collect karna and submit the remaining to the king's treasury. Okay. So, now Hyder Ali did that. He faced the challenge from these things, and obviously he fought it through. Then came the time of the first Anglo Mysore War. So the first Anglo Mysore War from 1766 to 1769. So time yaad rakhna hai. At that time, East India Company was having some treaty with Nizam and having some treaty with the Maratha. That okay, we'll work together, something like that. Triple alliance, you can say. In a world history, you must have a triple alliance and triple entities. So they decided, okay, we will do the three-side attack on the Hyder Ali. ठीक है? Nizam ऊपर से, Maratha यहाँ से, and the English from here. But Hyder Ali, with some diplomacy and with some talking with Marathas and Nizam, he turned them against the Britishers. So he brought Maratha and Nizam on his side. For example, I'll give you this territory, I will give you that territory. You don't have to go into the deeps of it. So Hyder Ali, with diplomacy in the first Anglo-Mysore War, has sided these with Maratha and the Nizam. Okay? And Hyder Ali made a crushing blow to the Britishers. He reached Madras and he humiliated the EIC, East India Company. So the first war was a happy ending for the Hyder Ali. For Hyder Ali, it was a happy ending. Then he signed the Treaty of Madras. Okay? In the Treaty of Madras, it was decided that we will go through a defensive alliance with the Britishers. Who will go to the with a defensive alliance with the Britishers? The your Hyder Ali. So, for example, what is a defensive alliance? Just like NATO. If, for example, if someone attacks, let's say UK, then all the countries will come together and defend UK. The similar alliance were there with respect to the Nizams and the Hyder Ali and the EIC. That if, let's say, Hyder Ali is attacked by some other power, if Hyder Ali is attacked by some other power, then Hyder Ali will do what? Hyder Ali will, and the EIC will help Hyder Ali, and they will fight against the third power. And they've decided, okay, we'll give each other territory. That's fine. But we will go through a defensive alliance. So this was decided. Remember, this was a promise being done to the Hyder Ali by the East India Company. So you can see after the first and also the second war, which was also, second war was a draw, basically, we'll see. So you can see the territory of the Mysore, kitni proper territory hai, how much territory they are getting up. Hai na? For example, as I told you, attack from British from here, Nizam from here, and Marathas from here, Peshwa's territory. So you can see after the first and the second war, Mysore has a good territory with themselves. But the story changed after the second war. We will see. This was the period between the first and the second war. So first war ended in 1769. They have signed the Treaty of Madras. And between the first and the second war, many things happened. For example, Maratha raided the Mysore. Maratha ka ye hai na area. Maratha raided the Mysore because they have to re-establish their power, which we'll see in the next turn. They raided the Mysore from here. And the Mysore said to the British East India Company, you have promised us under the Treaty of Madras that we will go through a defensive alliance. We will go through a defensive alliance. You will help me when this will be done. But EIC said, no, no, no. EIC did not help. So Hyder Ali said कि भाई मुझे तो betrayed by EIC. French are far better than these people. These people, French are far better. And from there, this French connection started of the Hyder Ali, then of the Tipu Sultan. Okay? So Hyder Ali got the help from the French soldiers to modernize their army and develop the Mahe. Now, Mahe was a very important place in this particular area. Mahe was a port. We will look at the Tipu also. We'll see that with Mahe, with this particular port, they used to carry out a foreign embassies. They used to send messages to the foreign embassies for help, for diplomatic relationship, and all these things. From this is the port. From there, they used to get a lot of things. So this is why Mahe was a very, very important port for the Mysore kingdom. Now, in between, we'll see tomorrow that Maratha versus East India Company first war also happened parallelly to it. One more international event happened at this period. What is that period? 1776 in Philadelphia in USA. क्या हुआ? American Declaration of Independence, but not of concern in modern history. So by 1780, Warren Hastings has captured the Mahe, and now the Mysore were very furious. Hyder Ali was very furious. कि ये क्या हो रहा है? What is this happening? Warren has captured the Mahe. Mahe was important for Mysore as well as for the French. So it was bound to create some conflicts. Because if you remember, Mahe was also the Puducherry part. The French was defeated and they got the Puducherry. Mahe also they got in the settlement with the British in the Treaty of Paris, 1763. Now, when the Warren Hastings has done that, then it created some sort of discomfort with the Hyder Ali and the French. So Hyder Ali supplied and trade dependent on the Mahe. Now it's time for the war. So Hyder Ali made some alliance with Maratha and Nizam. He said, okay, I have to fight these Britishers. They have betrayed us. He captured our court and defeated the English army as well. But the alliance broke in between. These alliances were not framed based upon any loyalty or anything. They were very transactional in nature. Understand this. These alliances were very transactional in nature. For example, one day to the Marathas, one offer given by the Hyder Ali. The next day, the offer is given by the Britishers. There was no sense of Indianness that Okay, that we should help Hyder Ali because he's an Indian and the Britishers are foreigner. No, they used to see themselves as a regional power. They have to see themselves as in silos. There was no concept of Indianness at that time, and you can see from this period itself. Okay. Now, then a very important battle happened between Hyder Ali and the East India Company at the Battle of Porto Novo and British General, that is Aircourt. And while fighting in this particular war, Hyder Ali died. He's done. And now this war is taken over by his son, that is the Tipu Sultan. Now, Tipu Sultan has carried out for 1 year, and that became a war of attrition and finally became a draw. Nobody won this war. Both decided that so much fighting has been done, nothing has been achieved. So they have all signed this Treaty of Mangalore. यहाँ पे I just wrote this, sorry. So they have done the Treaty of Mangalore. They said, okay, we'll give each other's territory back. You have taken my territory and I've taken your territory. Let us give each other's territory back and let's call it a end. That's fine. So that is the end of the Second Mysore War. So what were the outcomes of Second Mysore War? Hyder Ali died. It was a draw, right? And here you can see declining power of the Mysore, because Mysore won in the first war, but they lost the second war. And the British now can see this. Tipu Sultan is there, but they know that still we have made a inroad. देखो, this question, if the question comes, let's say, Sir Ayerkut, what the peripheral topic hai, but they can ask in which battles he was involved in. So he was involved in the Battle of Palasi. We have discussed that. Battle of Wandiwash. We have discussed that when they are fighting against the French. And then Battle of Porto Novo, the second Anglo Mysore War, the war that we have, the battle that we have discussed. Now, the third Mysore War in the 1790 to 1792. The third Mysore War happened in between 1780s and 90s. There are a few more things that happen. Pitt's India Act. We will see this. What is this particular act in our theme 2? When we'll talk about the British administration, when we look at the Pitt's India Act. Cornwallis came to power, very important. He lost. He was the person who surrendered in the Yorktown in America. Yorktown mein he surrendered, but he belonged to the aristocrat family and he got assignment into India. He job bhai, go India. Right? American Revolution that was happening. Then you have the Cornwallis formed the anti-Tipu alliance. Because at that time Tipu was conducting his rebuilding himself. Tipu was rebuilding himself with the help of Turkey, with the help of French. He has sent a lot of embassies to many people. For example, some people say that he has sent embassies to Kabul and other places. We will see. That's a list in your question answer format. So Cornwallis decided, okay, we have to form this anti-Tipu alliance, and they have formed this particular alliance. Now they needed a context to start the third Mysore War. And that context was given by the difference of Tipu with the Travancore. So Travancore, that is a present day Kerala. Travancore kingdom ke saath, they started the Tipu Sultan had a difference, and the EIC helped the Travancore kingdom. So Travancore kingdom said that please help us, because the Travancore also knew ki bhai there's a tension is there between the Tipu Sultan and the Britishers. So Travancore sought help from the EIC, and finally the Tipu lost at the Srirangapatnam. Seringapatnam. So this is where the Tipu lost the battle. And then this battle happened, EIC versus Maratha plus Nizam versus the Tipu. Tipu was alone and he ultimately lost. When he lost, he has to sign a very humiliating treaty, that is the Treaty of Seringapatnam. Treaty of Seringapatnam. In that, now you can see that treaty is not equal. That treaty, the Britishers are this and the Mysore is this. Till now, all the treaties have been signed almost equally. Enough. The first treaty, you can say Hyder Ali was a bit up, but with the second treaty equal to the third treaty going here. So in the Srirangapatnam treaty, what happened? Half of the territory was given to the alliance, Maratha, Nizam, East EIC, Lelo territory from Mysore's kingdom. It was carved out, a lot of territory given to Nizam, British, and the Marathas. War indemnity, 3 crore rupees you have to pay to us, the Britishers have said. And the children of the Tipu Sultan was taken as a hostage by the Cornwallis. And it was a lot of humiliation for the Tipu. But Tipu की जीने की philosophy कुछ और थी. Tipu's philosophy of life was different. You must have heard of him. It's better to live as a tiger for one day than to live as a sheep for thousands of the years. Something like that. You know? So it's better to show your bravery for one day than to live a life of the cowardice for the rest of your life. Now this you can compare with the second this map and from this map, third Anglo Mysore War. You can see how the Mysore's territory was carved up. This portion given to Maratha, this to the Nizam, and this to the Britishers. Okay? And the Mysore is this much is left out. But Tipu Sultan, as we have said, this was his uh, caliber, or you can say this was his acumen or aptitude or attitude. So what he decided, no, what I will do, I will fight again. So he started to again rebuild himself. So for period between 1792 and 1799 was a relatively peace period, because at that time your Governor General was Mr. John Shore. He followed the policy of non-intervention. We don't have to intervene into the states of these states. No, we won't do it. So at that time, it gave the time for the Tipu to rebuild himself, rebuild himself, get more energy. So it created an alliance against the British, alliance which comprises of the Arabs, the Turks, and the Afghans. So this alliance happened against the British. He sent embassies to these countries and he's trying to recover. So when Mr. John Shore went, came very important figure, that is Mr. Lord Wellesley. Lord Wellesley came. And when Mr. Lord Wellesley came, then he decided, now let's finish them out. We will discuss Lord Wellesley, his policy of subsidiary alliance. Subsidiary alliance ka policy. We'll discuss in detail. So his policy of subsidiary alliance, he told the Tipu, please sign this particular document, and ultimately you have to station the British resident in your kingdom. You have to do this, you have to do that. But Tipu ne kaha, it will not happen. No, this will not happen. Hence, the Tipu submitted. No, sorry, the Wellesley wanted him to submit, and Tipu said, no, I will not submit. I will remain true to myself and I will fight till my last breath. And in May 1979, while fighting with the Britishers, he declared the war, that is the Fourth Anglo Mysore War. Tipu died while fighting, and he died in his own palace, that is Seringpatnam. If you went to Mysore, you must have witnessed, you must have seen this palace. Mysore Palace of the Vodaya dynasty also is there. Very big palace is there, and there is something related to Tipu Sultan. I went back there, I think 5 to 6 years ago. Still, I have very faint memories of it. And then what Wellesley has done, he has reinstated this Vodaya dynasty, and with the Vodaya dynasty, he signed this subsidiary alliance. And obviously, when you are putting these people in Vodaya dynasty, you will sign the subsidiary alliance with them. So this is in all the whole story of Tipu Sultan. Okay? So if you see, this is the territory, and this much again was taken out of this. This is given to Nizam. This is given to the British got these much kingdom, and the Mysore is just left out this much. That's all. So Mysore was left to the Vodaya dynasty and also under the subsidiary alliance with the Britishers. And British have achieved their objective. That is they have subsided one of the important powers in the south. That is the Tipu Sultan, which was very, very defiant against the Britishers. You can see with the Marathas, some side they are siding with the ECs. There are some, we'll see in the Maratha story. Some are against Britishers, some are pro-Britishers. But Tipu Sultan remained defiant. For the over 40 years, he has denied the Britishers this particular area. So he presented a very formidable challenge against the Britishers. Right? Okay. So let's summarize this, what we have done. So first Anglo-Mysore War from 1766 to 69. Then second Anglo-Mysore War from 1780 to 84. Third Anglo-Mysore War from 1790 to 92. And the last Mysore War, that is 1799. ये टाइम याद रखना है. You have to remember this timeline. You have to remember these treaties. Treaty of Madras, MMS. You can remember like that. MMS. Madras, Mangalore, then Srirangapattam. In the first one, the Hyder Ali won. The second one, Hyder Ali died. It was a draw. And then the third, Tipu lost. And finally, the Tipu died. So this is the, in brief, the Anglo Mysore story. Now, very quickly, let's discuss this. And I also, at the end of the session, I'll let you know ki important kya hai. What are the things that are important that we need to keep in mind. Now, Tipu as a ruler is important because your main question can come on the Tipu Sultan. Though it's very controversial, we will see why it's controversial as well. But on the Tipu Sultan, this question, you can expect one question on the Tipu Sultan. Okay? In the governance, he has done something. For example, he introduced new calendars, new coins, weights, measure. So you can see standardization. And whenever these things are done, your kingdom flourishes, or you can see a system of governance in place. Weights, coins, measures, qualitatively, quantitatively, everything fixed up. Improvisation in the fields of the agriculture, trade, and commerce were seen. He abandoned the custom of giving jagirs, means this feudal system where you have to give some land and they will do this. He knew that these people are challenged. He has seen from the experience of the polygards. He has seen that how these polygards can become a challenge later on. Finish it. Then, when it comes to power in the army, he reduced the powers of these polygards. Okay, we have discussed that along with the Hyder Ali. Organized the training and the army on the European lines. He had a French connection. He got support of the French. He set up a Jacobean club in the Mysore itself. So Jacobean club, he used to call himself the Tipu citizen. He used to call himself, I think, the French citizen himself. So Jacobean clubs that you must have read in your French Revolution also. Very famous clubs that were being formed. He plantation of the Tree of Liberty, symbol of the French Revolution at the Seringpatnam. Okay, the French ideas. Then miscellaneous, he given the money for the resurrection of the Singeri temple, installation of the image of the goddess Sharda. So that goes to show that he was not a, let's say, we will see, his image is very distorted in the present context. The image of the goddess Sharda, that means he has also given money for the restoration of many Hindu temples. Now, let us discuss in brief the controversy regarding the Tipu Sultan. Now, Tipu Sultan, let's say, you know the BJP and the Congress story, right? So Tipu Sultan was a Muslim who focused on the governance, let's say. Now, for Congress, he represents a secularized idea of the nationalism. If the Congress wants to fulfill its dream of the secular, or they believe on the idea of secularism, as they say, then he was a secular icon. He was a Muslim. He believed in governance. He was a very strong leader. While for the BJP, they have portrayed the Tipu Sultan as a bigot, that who persecuted Muslims and who persecuted Hindus and Christians. He destroyed the temples. His text should be removed from the book. He was a fanatic about the Islam faith and all these things. So this is basically nothing but a political clash, the battles of the political ideologies that is in the present direction. So fanatic or the freedom fighter, renewed debate on the Tipu Sultan. You'll find many articles on the Tipu Sultan and they come periodically. For example, in 2016, they were in the news. In 2019, they were in the news. They can be news again when you come near to the your Karnataka assembly elections. Tipu Sultan is basically, for example, and it's just political. For example, Mr. Yodurappa. First, he was in the favor of a Tipu Jayanti, not he is in the BJP, he is against the Tipu Sultan. Okay? But there are a few things which also we should need to know. For example, some people also qualify him as the early freedom fighter, because he viewed the British as a new kind of the political enemy whose rule could hurt the region's future in a drastic way, qualifying him perhaps as the early freedom fighter. Okay? Many of his upper caste ministers were the Brahmins. Right? So that does not mean that he has only persecuted the Hindus. It does not mean that. He has given a lot of endowments to the major Hindu temples and the monastic orders. Yes, there have been some cases of let's say, destruction of the temples and, let's say, ruthlessness of the Tipu Sultan. But these are also the cases which goes to see, which we once needs to see. So what is an overall, you can, what is the final idea you can make out of it? The final idea you can make out of it, that Tipu Sultan fought for his own kingdom. First of all, he fought for his own kingdom. He had the far sight to understand that a British was a threat. He was far sighted that British was a threat. British is a threat, and we need to fight it tooth and nail. But there are a few cases controversial hai legacy. There are a few cases where the cases are there where he has gained that endowments and all money to resurrection, appointment of the Brahmins to the key ministries. But there are also the cases where he has destroyed the temples, and some of the persecution cases also comes up. So legacy to kuch bhi hai na, both the sides of the things is there. But the political color that has been attached to the Tipu Sultan should not be there. He is a historical figure, and he needs to be seen like that with an eye of an objectivity. Understood? Chalo. इससे ज़्यादा remember Tipu Sultan पे controversial question will not come in your mains exam. But yes, if you belong to that area of the Karnataka, then this question can be asked to you about the Tipu Sultan in the interview. That's the end of the session. Let us look at a few questions. For example, first question is 2012 in the UPSC they have asked, assessment of the land revenue on the basis of the nature of the soil and the quality of the crops. Use of the mobile cannons and cultivation of the tobacco and red chilies. Which of them were introduced by the India by the English? You can pause the video and try the answer. That you think hard, then you come to the answer. Now this one, the first one was done by the Raja Todarmal, not done by the Britishers. When we look at the English administration, for example, how they have carried out the land revenue, their sole purpose of the land revenue was the money, not that how it needs to be calculated. Their sole purpose was to extract as much revenue as possible from the land. That's all. And then use of the mobile cannon, the warfare was started by the Portuguese. We have seen that. And tobacco and red chilies भी हमने देखा है कि it was a contribution of the Portuguese, isn't it? Let's go to the next question. With reference to the entry of the Europeans in India, 2003 question, which of the following statements is not correct? Portuguese capture Goa in 1419. English opened their first factory in the South India in Masulipatam. East India Company in East India, English company opened its first factory in 1633. Another leadership of Dupleix, the French occupied Madras in 1746. Now let's see each and each statement. The first one, Portuguese have occupied Goa in 1499. No, 1498 में तो Vasco da Gama first time came. How can they occupy Goa so early? So Goa was occupied in, I think, 1507 or 1510. Please check your notes. From the kingdom of the Bijapur. So first statement is wrong, and you can get the first answer. Now let's see next statement. English opened their first factory, yes, in Masulipatam 1611. Then next, in East India Company, in Eastern India, English company opened its first factory in Odisha in 1633. We have not read that. But now from this moment, you need to keep this as a fact and remember this. Yes, in 1633, first time in the Eastern India, in Odisha, British East India Company opened their first factory. Then under the leadership of Dupleix, yes, in fact, that sets up the context of your first French war. Oh, sorry, first Carnatic war. Apart from that area, apart from I'm just forgetting, apart from the international context, Austrian War of Succession, this was the context. So the wrong answer is this: Portuguese captured Goa in 1499. Let's see the next question. Which among the following, again 2001 question IS, which of the following are the Indian rurals established embassies in the foreign countries on the modern lines? Hyder Ali, Mir Qasim, Shah Alam II, and Tipu Sultan. Very easy. It was the Tipu Sultan who established the foreign embassies. Hyder Ali did not have the time to do so because in 1761 he became the ruler. Then he started expanding his territory, consolidation of his kingdom, opened up some of the army things we will discuss. And then he fought the first war, then he fought the second war. Kahan pe time mila? And he died. So it is the Tipu Sultan who got the time and the things to set up all these things. Let us see few questions. And these questions, see these questions as a content. Plus questions to dekhne hai, plus see all these questions as a content also. So consider the following statements. Hyder Ali introduced a new calendar, new system of coinage, and a new scales of weight and measures. Tipu Sultan planted a tree of liberty at Sherringpatnam, drawing the inspiration from French Revolution. Tipu Sultan attempted to reduce the power of the Polygard. कौन सा statement ठीक है? If we talk about the first statement, it is not the Hyder Ali, but the Tipu Sultan who has introduced all this. So first statement is wrong. First is wrong, तो ये wrong हुआ, ये wrong हुआ, ये wrong हुआ, and your statement is 2 and 3 are right. So Tipu Sultan planted the tree of liberty. Yes. Reduced the power of Polygard. Yes. Okay. So the answer is your 2 and 3. Let us see some of the content in between. So Hyder Ali himself was also a religious tolerance. His first diwan and many officials were Hindu. Remember, he was occupying a territory or the king or the administration that was earlier led by a Vodaya dynasty, which was Hindu in character. Okay. Then Tipu Sultan was an innovator and introduced new calendar system of coinage and weights and scale that we have discussed. Other reforms by the Tipu Sultan, his infantry was armed with muskets and bayonets which were manufactured in Mysore. So some of the small bombs he used to create. He also attempted to create a modern navy, right? He introduced the industries in India. He invited foreign workmen as experts and provided the state support to many of the industry. He sent embassies to Iran to develop the foreign trade, gave money for the construction of Goddess Arda. We have seen the Shingeri temples. So these are the statements you need to know, that yes, he attempted to build a modern navy, attempted. Then introduce the industry, foreign workmen, armed with muskets and bayonets, some of the armed things that he has also done. So these are the things you will add addition to the content that we have discussed. Next question is, consider the following statement regarding the economic conditions during the rule of the Tipu Sultan. He attempted to reduce the modern industry in India by importing the foreign workmen as experts and extending state support to many industry. Peasants under his rule were more prosperous than the peasant in the most other part of the India. So first is that the statement that we have seen, obviously that's right. And the second statement is, what about the peasant condition? So as compared to the condition of the peasant in the other parts of the India, his in the kingdom of the Mysore, the system was better. Okay. So we have discussed it. Tipu Sultan actually just copy pasted. So as to give you many questions as we have discussed. So give you as many questions as possible from the many sources. So introduce modern industry by supporting the foreign workmen, right? He traded also with China, embassies to France, Turkey, Iran, Pegu, Myanmar, many countries. He tried to promote trade with Russia and Arabia by setting up the straight trading institutions in the port town. Then, okay. So John Shore, Governor General from 1793 to 1798, wrote that peasantry and his dominion were protected and the labor encouraged and rewarded in the kingdom of the Mysore. So Mysore, well cultivated and populous with industrial habitat, and cities were newly formed and commercial extending. So you can say that these things were good in nature. The land revenue was fixed 1/3 as the crop as the land revenue. On the dry land, it was collected in money. In the wasteland, it was rent free in the first year, rented 1/4 in the second year, and succeeding year to the usual amount. Under his contemporary, the situation of poor in the Hyderabad as compared to his own Mysore. Okay. So what we need to take up in mind that peasantry was good, the land revenue was taken in money, and the wasteland it was different. So that means that he was empathetic towards the conditions that was there. If one sought that one revenue, we have to maximization of the revenue was not his motive. Yes, obviously that would have been motive, but also seeing upon depending upon the conditions to condition. Okay. Then this is both the options 1 and 2 are correct. He made attempts to introduce modernity, yes, and the peasants were very prosperous in his rule. So with this, we finish our session. We'll continue few questions of the Mysore in our next turn also, because you have seen, for example, today we have discussed few of the previous year questions of the previous things that we have discussed. So with this, we finish our session today. And right, so that's the end of the 5th session. In the next session, we'll talk about the Maratha story. Till now, we have discussed the story that is the first session Portuguese, second session we have discussed on the later Mughals. Third session, we have discussed Anglo-French, Dutch, and Danes. And the fourth session, we talked about the Bengal story. The fifth session, we have talked about the Mysore story. And the next session, we'll talk about the Maratha story. Maratha story is also very important. And after the Maratha story, then the confusion starts to set in. Acha, when was the first Anglo-Maratha war? When is the first Anglo-Mysore war? And which is the treaty which belongs to this and this and that? Okay. So with more and more questions and with more and more revisions, you will get it too. So not an issue. So let's finish the session and see you all in the next class. Bye bye. Thank you.